All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 5. That is right, week number 5 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we are going to do this week is we are going to have our state of the course update, and then I am going to introduce you all to the basic functions of Academic Search Premier / Complete, and also JSTOR, which they pretty much search the same way, and they're basically general topic databases. So they are good databases that you would use as starting points. And most of you, if you've worked in the library before, you've actually already worked most likely with Academic Search Complete or Academic Search Premier, and you've most likely already worked with JSTOR. However, not everybody here works in a library already, and I did not work in a library prior to going to library school, and so I do not assume you all's knowledge, because some of you have been working in libraries for decades. Some of you have never worked in libraries before. Those of you who have been working in libraries for decades probably are familiar with Academic Search Complete, know how to search it and all of that, and can probably even just skip the rest of the video after I do the state of the course update. But then those of you who are not traditional library workers or have not been working in libraries for the past however many, you may not be familiar with Academic Search Premier / Complete, and you may not be familiar with JSTOR, and so you might need a rough introduction, and that's what I'm going to give to you today. Now remember, the introduction to these databases is not a training tutorial on how to actually use the databases. I am showing you some of the database functions and some of the main features, but if you want to become a pro at the database, what you need to do is, on your own time, look for some tutorials. You can find tutorials in EBSCO when it comes to Academic Search Complete. You can find tutorials on JSTOR or Academic Search Complete on things like YouTube and other video services, okay? So if you really want to train in these databases, then I suggest that you, instead of just watching this video, if you want to train and get some practice, I suggest you find an actual tutorial online and then get some practice in. But okay, with that said, let's go ahead and do our state of the course update. Okay, so for state of the course update, the first thing that I want you all to be aware of is that yes, your semester-long projects will be becoming available soon, probably within the next 3 weeks. Again, once we get past discussion board prompt number 5, that is usually when I make it available, but I like for you all to get through the discussion board prompts first, and you all have been doing that, and you all have been doing a good job. I am getting caught up with grading the discussion board prompts, but what I've already looked at from discussion board prompt number 2 looks pretty good, and then discussion board prompt number 3, I haven't really even looked at that yet, but I will be looking at that as soon as I finish looking at discussion board prompt number 2. So there you go. All right, now with that said, you all do have a discussion board prompt that's going to be due on this coming week, and that is going to be discussion board prompt number 4 about virtual and in-person reference, and then you will also have your virtual reference practice and paper that is due this weekend. So if you have not conducted your interview, you better get that thing scheduled, all right, because I am expecting these papers on Sunday, okay? So I do want to hear from you all. I do not want you all to be late, and I do want you all to turn in fantastic work, and I know you all will, but just know that yes, you have 2 things due this week: the virtual reference practice and paper, and yes, your discussion board prompt number 4. Also this week, I want you all to be aware that next week you will not have, I repeat, you will not have a sync session. We will be hosting Marianne Curtis, who is a middle school librarian, and she's going to talk about public services at the K-12 level, and also how she works with teachers at the middle school level in order to provide reference services and those sorts of things to her students. She is a new speaker to my classes. I have not had her speak before. I am very excited to see how she does. I hope you all will enjoy her, and I hope I will enjoy her. And I think we all will, but let's see what happens with that, and hopefully everything will be great and golden. But with that said, that is the end of the state of the course updates. Just remember, no check-in video next week, and we will be having a sync session on next Tuesday, which is the 24th. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier, and then JSTOR. Give me one moment. All right, and I actually hate how the library has been redesigned. I really don't like it. How the library website, I'm sorry, has been redesigned. I really don't like it, but it is not for me to like it. It's just for me to use. So, first things first. Librarians often use these terms, the names of these databases librarians often use them interchangeably. Let me explain what I'm talking about. So they're basically two versions of the same database. There's Academic Search Complete and Academic Search Premier. Both of these are basically the Googles of the databases. So if you, whereas like a lot of the databases have a specific area that they're concentrated on. For instance, CINAHL is a nursing database, and Mergent is a business industries database and that sort of thing. PsycInfo is a psychology database. The Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete is actually a database that is general purpose and covers all sorts of topics all over the place, okay? So it is a good place to start. Again, it is a good place to start when you have somebody who is researching something that's more generalized. No, don't get me wrong. If you have a student come in and they're talking about they need to do a paper on, I don't know, histrionic personality disorder, then that patron, you might want to start with PsycInfo because you clearly got somebody who's doing something psychology related. But let's say you have somebody who's trying to do a paper on former President Donald Trump, right? If that person is doing a paper on Donald Trump, yes, you could go to a biography database, but then also Donald Trump is relevant to political science, and he is relevant to foreign affairs, and he is relevant to history at this point, to American history at this point. Yes, he is. So you could go to all of those databases and that sort of thing. You might not even know where to start. A political science database, a religious database, a race database, you know, which would be a sociology database, or would you start at a history database, or what? Well, you can start at Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete because these, again, are the Googles of the databases. Now, if you want to know what the difference is between Academic Search Premier and Academic Search Complete, I can explain that as well. So Academic Search Premier is basically the cheaper version of Academic Search Complete. Academic Search Complete, with that name Complete, it has all of the things that that database would have, and it's a little bit more expensive, a little more upper tier. If you have Academic Search Premier, and that is what we have at Mizzou, we have Academic Search Premier, not Academic Search Complete. If you do have Academic Search Premier, then that means you have most of the stuff, but it is still a slightly lower tier of content, okay? But either way, I've never really ran into somebody who was like, oh man, Academic Search Premier just doesn't cut it for me. I need Academic Search Complete. People get by on Academic Search Premier, and that is exactly why we at a Research One institution have Academic Search Premier, because people can get by. So anyway, now I am actually, what is that? Let's get rid of that. I am now actually in Academic Search Premier, and again, when you go into EBSCO databases, first of all, you can click choose databases right here, and there are going to be some other things that are available to you. So again, a lot of these things are specific to a particular field or a particular discipline or something. Again, CINAHL is nursing, ERIC is education. You've got things here related to environmental science, sports medicine, so forth and so on. But when we talk about Academic Search Premier or Academic Search Complete, again, we Academic Search Elite, I don't even know what that is. I haven't really seen that before. But let's go ahead and just stay in Academic Search Premier just to keep a level of familiarity going. So, Academic Search Premier. I am going to show you some of the basics of this database. And again, if you want to train on it on your own time, you can do that. But I need to keep this video somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes unsped. Hopefully it'll be even shorter than that. And so, yes, you're going to have to fill in your own blanks. But let's go ahead and start with a sample search. So first of all, this database at most libraries, this database will actually default into the advanced search, not the basic search. And I don't find the basic search particularly useful. So I am glad that it defaults into the advanced search, and maybe the reason why it defaults into the advanced search is because that is the more useful one. Now, again, let's say that we're just doing something about Donald Trump. I'm going to do a sample search to kind of show you how things go here. So first of all, Donald Trump. And if you just type in Donald Trump, you're going to get a lot of results, more than you can deal with. And so we've got our results right here, 86,600 results. That is way too much for us to deal with. Now, you do have limiters to the left. A lot of people use these limiters, so you can limit things to, for instance, If you wanted the full text to actually be in the database, then, and you wouldn't, when I say the full text is going to be in the database, what I mean by that is if you click full text, that full text button, the full text is going to be right here in the database. You're not going to have to go to Interlibrary Loan. You're not going to have to go to Journal Finder. You're not going to have to follow any link to get to, or you're not going to have to follow any specious link, I should say, in order to get out of the database and to the information you need. Now, there are some, even when you click full text, there are going to be some situations where you have to click a link that's going to take you out of the database, but you're not going to have but that one step typically, if that makes sense. So that's your full text, and a lot of times you would click full text if you have, like, particularly if you have a freshman or a sophomore and they are coming to you at the last minute. Hey, I got this paper due at 8 o'clock in the morning and it's 9 o'clock at night. Can you just help me find 10 sources? That's when you're going to check that full text files, right? References available. People, I don't really use that one very often, but then peer review, and peer review is going to be pretty much the same as academic journals. There are some academic journals that are not peer reviewed. However, once you click peer review, a lot of times it's the same effect as if you click academic journals here, okay? And that's how you can get your limits there. You can limit by date, and a lot of people do that. So let's say that you only wanted information from when Donald Trump started his presidential campaign on, so you could limit this theoretically to 2015, which is when I believe he started, was either 2014 or 15. You can limit there as opposed to going all the way back to 1981, and then you got these options here. But these are all, again, ways to get your number of results down, okay? I don't know what I just did there. Oh, okay, so once I put that in, so that didn't take it down much. As you can see, we went from 86,000 to 84,000. So a lot of this stuff was not published between 1981, which is what this was, in 2014. The overwhelming majority was published in 2015 or later. So that's another limiter. Again, you can also limit by source types. Let's say you did have a student come in and they said they could only use academic journals. Voila, you can go ahead and do that update, and there you go. You just went from 84,000 things to 6,000 things, and that is a much more manageable number. And then finally, you've got all these other little limiters that people can use. These are what I call secondary limiters. You don't use them quite as much, but they can still be useful, okay? And especially a lot of times, if you're getting a lot of funky languages in there, then you might want to limit to English. I guess no language is actually funky, so I apologize if that was considered insensitive. But yes, we went here from about 6,000 things to still about 6,000 things, but not as many things. We're now under 6,000, okay? So you use your limiters to kind of bring things down, but there are other ways to bring this down. So let's go ahead and do a new search. I'm just going to clear us out here and start a new search. Hold on. All right, so let's go to this advanced search here again, and let's just show you a few other things here. So let's put Donald Trump back in there. Click search, and we've got that 86,000 things. Now, one thing that I want you all to be aware of here again is that if this is left blank, then it's looking for keywords as opposed to something else. And then also if there are no quotation marks around the name, then it's going to look for things that have either Donald or Trump, or, well, they have to have both Donald and Trump in there, right? But they don't necessarily have to be quote unquote Donald Trump. They can be, something can say, like for instance, if there's something that says that Donald Newsom trumps racism or something like that, then if it's got, and even with the plural, if it's got Donald and Trumps, but it's not Donald Trump, it's still going to bring that return back, and that's irrelevant to what you're trying to do. So one thing you might want to do, for instance, when you're starting off this way, is to put those quotation marks around it, and it's still going to be a keyword search now, but now it's a keyword search, but it's a keyword search that is specifically looking for the words Donald Trump together as the name. And as you can see, we went from 86,000 things to 79,000 things. So we dropped several thousand things off just like that, okay? Now, Boolean logic. You can look for some things you can do. If you do the and, you all know how Boolean probably works. If you do and, then it's going to look for both terms. So let's say Donald Trump and I don't know. I hate to do this, but it's what's coming to my mind right now. Donald Trump and Epstein. If you put Donald Trump and Epstein, it's going to narrow things down because it's not going to return things unless it has both Donald Trump and Epstein there. And so we went from 79,000 things to 463 things. However, if you do Donald Trump or Epstein, it's going to look for Donald Trump and bring back anything with Donald Trump like that. But then it's also going to bring back anything with Epstein in it. So now you're going to have more results than that 79,000 that we just had. How many more? Let's see. 115,000. So yes, if you want to expand your results, you can do the or, and that's how that works, and then not. So let's say you wanted information about Donald Trump, but you don't want anything that mentions Epstein. Let's say that you're doing this for an audience, for instance, of middle schoolers, and you don't want to get into that whole Epstein thing with those middle schoolers. Then Donald Trump, but not Epstein. You can click that. And now you've got 78,000 things, and anything that appears here will be about Donald Trump, but it will not mention Epstein. And as you can see, that one doesn't quite take things down that much, but some things would take you down more. So I think we just go from, like, if we remove that, then it goes from 78 to 79. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So that didn't remove too much, okay? But then other things that you want to do. So let's say that you have Donald Trump here. But let's say you're looking at this and you're like, some of these things just have casual mentions of Donald Trump, and what I want are things that are specifically about Donald Trump. What you can do is you can switch this from a keyword, and I would recommend, usually, especially at a novice level, you would switch either to something that mentions Donald Trump in the title, that mentions him as a subject, that mentions him as people, or that mentions him in the abstract. These are your guys right here. Title, subject, people, and people and subject for Donald Trump is going to overlap. But there are going to be times when that's not going to be the case. And then also abstracts, which, as you all probably already know, an abstract is a 1 to 3 page summary of the contents of a article or other material. Okay. All right. So let's say that we wanted Donald Trump, but let's say that's a lot of stuff. I only want to deal with things that mention Donald Trump in the abstract, in the summary, and that way I know that those things are about Donald Trump. So we could switch this from keyword or select a field to AB, which is abstract. And once we do this, yes, we go down from 79 things to 79,000 things to 36,000 things. However, everything here mentions Donald Trump in that abstract. Now, I am going to scroll because there is something else that I want you all to see. And in fact, this New Republic article is probably going to be all I need to demonstrate what I want to demonstrate. All right, so you see this, first of all, yes, this is full text. So if you wanted that full text, actually, when it's HTML, a lot of times all you're doing is just scrolling down and your full text is right there. But if you want that full text in PDF form, you can click this PDF full text, and then you will get something that looks like that original page. And oh, David Duke, that's the person that I want to see when I open up a database. Okay, so you see that. So you've got that information, you've got your full text right there. We're going to talk about these things on the right a little bit right now, really quick, because these things on the right are the tools that you can use to kind of save some of the interesting things that you come across. So let's say you found this and you're like, yeah, this is relevant, I want to keep this. So what a lot of students will do is just go ahead and save it, and clicking this save will give you an option to save usually in HTML, but you'll have sometimes PDF options as well. But then also, once you click PDF full text, there's a download link there. You can also email these to yourself, email them to friends, so forth and so on. Back in the old days, before we had all this cloud storage and stuff like that, I would usually just email stuff to myself and then create a folder for it. But that is an outdated practice. You can export things. You can make a list of permalinks, and what I do a lot of times is I'm using permalinks when I am trying to get you all linked up to a particular material. So what I do like for instance, with the readings that you all have that come from the library, a lot of times what I do is I just go into the permalink. I found the article, and then once I approve of it, then I get the permalink and I put the permalink in Canvas. Okay. Citing. This is something that I want you all to be aware of as well, because this is very important. You can get sample citations, but these sample citations, what you all need to realize is that sample citations are only accurate 80% of the time, so do not rely on them, okay? And when I say that sample citations are only accurate 80% of the time, I know 80% sounds good, but think about it. If you have a paper where you are citing 10 sources, then if only 80% of the time this cite feature is correct, that means there's a good chance that 2 of your sources are going to be formatted incorrectly if you just copy and paste from this. Do not copy and paste from this. And I can even tell you right now, and I didn't plan it this way, it just happened to be. This is incorrect because confusion in APA should be lowercase in this instance. So you cannot rely on these citations, especially when you have a professor who's going to be checking on these things, and I am one such professor, okay? So with that said, do not rely, and I've seen some of these just be totally butchered, okay? So again, just do not rely on the sample citations, but they can be a good starting point, but you do want to double check them and make sure they are correct and proper. And then finally, Google Drive and OneDrive, if you're working with those, then that can be useful there. And then also you can print them out. Okay. Now let's go back to our record. We're going to get out of this citation format. I do want you to see all the information that's available to you once you click on a record, and then I'm going to show you one more thing, and then we're going to go really quickly into JSTOR. So once you pull up a record, but before you get to the full text, you will have a lot of crucial information here. The abstract is one of the first things that I tell people to kind of look for, because what you want to do is read that 1 to 3 paragraph summary of the contents of the article before you actually decide, hey, I'm going to read this whole article. Because this one's only 6 pages, but yes, there are a lot of articles that are multiple pages. When you get into academic journals, there can be articles that are long, long, long. And when I say long, 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 I mean like you can find journal articles that are like over 100 pages long, especially in law journals, okay? So you are going to want to read that abstract. You want your author. This is a lot of information that you need to construct your citations. You're going to have your article title up here, your author, then you're going to have your source, and you can even click on your source to get pertinent information about the source, including how long the database actually carries that source. You can see whether or not the source is peer reviewed. New Republic is a magazine, so that's not going to be peer reviewed. But you get a little description there, how often it comes out per year, so forth and so on, okay? So you've got that information pertinent right there, and then you do have subject term. Oh, well, before I'm getting ahead of myself, you've got the date that it was released, volume and issue number, pages, and that sort of thing. Now, you do have subject terms. Subject terms can be very, very useful. So if you are trying to research a particular subject, then a lot of times clicking the subject term, and I'm going to show you something like this, just I'm going to do it with the people term instead of the subject term, but it works the same way. What you can do is if you're getting too many irrelevant results, but you finally found something that's working for you, and then you see these subject terms, then what you can do is plug in those subject terms, and you can even plug them in or copy and paste them into the search boxes here. Pick the appropriate label and then search that way. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about right now. So we're actually going to do the people thing right here. Oh, also you've got a word count, and that can be very, very, very helpful. So we're going to do the people right now. So let's say, man, I'm trying to research Donald Trump, and I'm finding a lot of stuff that's not actually about Donald Trump. Well, what you can do is you can come over here, and this works the same way as the subject term. Again, like I said, it's just that since it's a person, it's classified under people instead of subject term. But you can there are 2 ways to do this. The simple way is to just click that, and that'll work. But then also, and they do the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. What you can also do is copy the text here. You're still going to want to put it in those quotes. And then what you can do is you can change this to people. So you see how this is people. You can change this to people, and then hit search. You've got 57,000 things, but everything here should be quote unquote about Donald Trump. The subject is Donald Trump, okay? And so that is how that works, and so that's a nifty little tool. And then just to show you, remember this number right here, 57886. It should be the same number or very similar. Come on. Okay. It should be the same number or very similar if we just click it here. So if you just click it here, yeah, is that same number. So that's how that works. And you see that little PE for people right there. Okay. So that is how that works. And that's a quick intro into Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier. We're going to look at one more database, and that's going to be JSTOR. And then I'm going to let you go. And I'm not even going to search JSTOR that heavily because really the search functions are the same. All right. So let's go into JSTOR very quickly. All right, and so now we're going to look at JSTOR very, very quickly. We're not going to spend, we're probably going to spend 5 minutes at the most on this. JSTOR searches pretty much just like Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete. So there's not really a reason to really spend too much time on this. If you search one, you can search the other. And again, this is one of those ones that is kind of a catch-all. It does work with all sorts of different subject matter, okay? So let's go ahead and get in here. So you've got advanced search, all content, all of these things right here. And you even have these different little categories right here. But what I want to do is go ahead and show you a search. And I want to tell you that how JSTOR is different and how JSTOR is special is it has one of the weakest search functions you've ever seen or ever will come across. When you do a JSTOR search, it's going to return you a lot of junk, and I really do mean a lot of junk. So I apologize for that, but it returns a lot of stuff. It's basically a dump. So pretty much anything that you find in JSTOR, most things are actually going to be even older than 5 years, but I think 98% of the content, or maybe even 99% of the content in JSTOR is at least 3 years old, because what JSTOR does is it's kind of a dumping ground for stuff that's old. So when people are trying to do historical research, JSTOR is a good place to go because you're going to get a lot of old documents, full text right here in JSTOR, okay? And that's what it's useful for, but you're going to spend time on JSTOR because, again, the search is not powerful, so you get a lot of irrelevant results. But let's go ahead and do a JSTOR search really quick. We can do Donald Trump, and we can also do, and I might even just do this right here. And yeah, immigration came up. Let's do immigration. And we can actually even do immigration as abstract. So you don't have the same fields that you had in the previous database, but there you go. And then if you wanted to, you could add rows. We don't necessarily need to do that, but we can just click advanced search. And as you can see, you get 212 things. Pretty much any search you do is going to get a whole bunch of stuff. 10% of articles on JSTOR have abstracts. I did not even realize that, so abstract searching is not very useful here. And so that's going to make this an even bigger mess because, yeah, so if we go back, come on, let me... Okay, now for some reason I tried to pause and get this off of here. We are in an infinite search for some reason, and that's not great. But I did want to show you all that when I took that abstract notice off, we did go from 212 things to 11,000 things. So there's that. But yes, you can fill up a works cited page very, very quickly with this, especially since most JSTOR content is actually full text, okay? So you're not even really going to have to click a full text button. I have not run into anything in JSTOR that did not have the full text right there. I'm sure such things exist, but I have not run into it. So the overwhelming majority of things are going to have your full text right there in the database. And so yeah, once you click on the title, then you come over here and you can download, share, save, so forth and so on. But that's your full text right there, and you can scroll through and it goes in PDF form. But yes, again, this database searches pretty much just like Academic Search Premier. The interface looks different. It doesn't have all of the same features, but it's a very similar search function. So if you can search one, you can search the other, and I am going to leave it right there. Again, there's not going to be a check-in video next week, but I will see you in class next Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all. But with all that said, I am Dr. Jace, and if you are trying to do a general search and want to know where to look, Academic Search Complete, Academic Search Premier, and JSTOR are often the first place. All right. I will see you all next week with a not a check-in video, but with a excuse me, a sync session. Ta ta.